So it's been a little bit since we talked about Undead Unluck on the channel, but I have been keeping up with it, and I've been very much enjoying it, and the thing I said about this show early on is I saw the potential. I was like, I like the idea, I like what I watch, but has it hooked me in 100%? No, but I see the potential, and very early on, I think my initial comment was, this is one of the coolest power systems I've ever seen in anime. And I think Andy as a character alone, with the idea of his regeneration and just the way he severs his body or keeps his sword pierced through his body, is enough to keep fights entertaining. But the brilliant thing about Undead Unluck is how every fight, or as we progress deeper and deeper, especially now that we are a part of this organization, it feels like it really has found its groove. And I think the spoil content, so between episodes 6 and 7 and going to be episode 8 as the fight's still continuing, this to me has easily been my favorite aspects that I've seen from this show. I think the idea of the story arc is emotional, it's engaging, the fight is very cool, but everything about it, from the almost Trigun Wild West aesthetic, almost Attack on Titan wall vibes, like you can't tell me with a straight face that I'm the only person who, when looking at some of these shots, I'm like, this kind of feels like early Attack on Titan, like we're trapped in the walls, there's a big beast fighting for us. I mean, hell, spoil at the very end of this latest episode, his neck, the way it comes to look at Fuko, like literally Eren Yeager there. I was like, it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, we got a lot to catch up on, and it's been a damn good ride. But I do have full live reactions to all of these episodes. Even if I'm not covering it every week on YouTube, I'm always covering it over on Patreon. So if you want to see all my uncut thoughts, over there if you're interested. Now, the main thing we're going to talk about is, of course, this spoil fight and the spoil arc in general. There's a lot of really interesting things happening here, and I think my favorite is the idea of the countdown and really not seeing where the countdown was going to go. So in episode 6, it ends with basically Fuko and Shen finding like 4 kids in a cellar of some sort, pointing a gun, and it turns out they seem quite fine. I mean, looking at everyone else, they're all zombies up there, and they're pointing guns saying back away. And I like the idea of the countdown being something that seemingly is based on an emotion or a mindset, because the girl at one point in episode 7, she ends up like with 20 seconds left or something, and therefore she would turn into a zombie, she would spoil. And the main kid, it basically gives her such a pep talk that it goes back to like 2,000 seconds or something like that. And it seems like the more positive your mindset, the longer you can keep the countdown from reaching 0. And it's really cool because the creature they're fighting, this spoil, is so cool because initially it's hiding in plain sight as like a church statue, like an angel statue, because our boy Andy gets hitched, he gets married, and honestly props to the boy, he's lived long enough, he's probably had multiple wives, and maybe this one will be one of his favorite. But I like the idea because initially when she's like pointing at the statue, I was like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. But no, it was like literally hiding in plain sight. And then it starts into this very large Titan-like beast, which was cool. And then by the end, it starts flying. Like, it's just like, this is like one of those boss fights, you know, like one of those things where you're like, whew, used up all those health potions, but at least we did wave 1. There's a wave 2. Alright, somehow you manage that. You might die a couple of times, and in Andy's case, quite literally, but he bounces right back, and then there's a wave 3. It's just, it keeps getting worse and worse, and I like the idea of how they used the zombies, because while I think on a visual level, there's a lot you can pick apart in terms of, yeah, that's clearly noticeable 3D. And do I like it? Not really. Did it ruin the episode? No, but it's very obvious and you're like, yeah, that's not the greatest 3D. The thing is if they had to make one, if I have to pick one thing, do I want the spoil fight to look good and have the zombies look mediocre? Or do I want the zombies to look good and have the fight look mediocre? Make the zombies look as trash as you want. Like, that's how I feel, because spoil in this giant beast, it just, I mean, he's flying around, he's getting absolutely obliterated. This is where it should go, and honestly, while episode 6 is a lot more noticeable for inconsistencies with the zombies, I think episode 7 actually blended them a bit better. But in general, I like the idea of pretty much making them into suicide bombers. It's tragic. I mean, the first one to go is literally this bride, and the idea of her being the teacher to these kids and her running into the gunpowder, it's tragic. It absolutely is. The thing that was kind of surprising to me, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one feeling this, so when the Eren Yeager head kind of comes to say hello to her because, you know, it's like, oh, everyone's gonna die here, I was surprised that she didn't touch him, because ultimately her touch is bad luck. So, like, as all the zombies are running, she's basically playing patty cake because it turns them into bad luck. The fact that he was so close, I'm surprised she didn't just jump up and do a little smack on the cheeks, and maybe that would have worked. Maybe the night's still young and she will go that route. but I figured she might try something like that. But either way, I like the idea of the cast we have right now. Shen kind of forces himself in. I mean, initially when they're driving into this city, like he like puts his feet through the roof of the truck so he can bend over and look into the window. And I'm like, oh my god, this dude is such a cockblock, but I absolutely love him. And the cast is very fun. Now that we're properly situated, we have a bit more idea about these missions and where the story arcs want to go. As we see by the end of episode 7, the idea of like, we have to give up on capturing, we just have to straight up kill. Failing the mission, don't give a shit, we got lives to save here, you guys are important. I like what they're doing. I really feel like it's found its groove. And I'm the type of person who, if you don't like something right away, I don't think you should watch it. I think there's so much that you can consume in your very short life that it's better to start watching something that you immediately enjoy than force yourself to watch something you might enjoy episodes later. For me, I enjoyed this show from episode 1, so while I had some issues or maybe I felt like it didn't completely click for me, the stuff I was seeing was still entertaining so I could keep on watching. And now that we're at this point, I'm really glad I did. But if people are talking like, I didn't really feel episode 1, then I don't see why people should force themselves to watch things. I think David Production has done a very good job with this show. I think this very much is in their wheelhouse. It pops out in the right ways, the character designs, the comedy. It just feels like we hit where we need to go, and it's only going to be uphill from here, because I think this is a 25 episode season overall, and there's still a lot left to tell. I don't know really what I want to see next, because they've actually shown quite a lot in terms of creativity on a set design. I think the set design with this kind of Wild West aesthetic has been the most interesting hands down. But I mean, at one point we've seen spaceships, there's a lot of things that can happen. We could go to the pits of hell, we could go to the NASA space station, who the hell knows where we're going next. All I know is that I definitely want to see more and more characters interact with the dynamic that is Fuko as well as Andy in different missions. Whether Shen's always tagging along, he only tags along sometimes, I don't care. The cast is very wild, and I think the idea of the opponents we're fighting being just as wild is really fun. This show, in general, that's my tagline. It's fun. Sometimes I'm like, damn, that crazy. At other times I'm like, that's actually surprisingly emotional. But in general, this show is fun, and at the end of the day, I come to anime to have fun, and that's all I really need the show to be. This show could just be Andy kicking ass and just being cool, and I would have a blast. Yet I'm actually really enjoying the characterization, especially for a character like Fuko, who started the show off wanting to kill herself, and by episode 7 is really valuing her own life, and most importantly, other people's lives. That's the type of subtle growth you love to see in a show like this, and separates it from being a mindless, fun show into something that actually has really good writing. Thoughts and feelings yourself on the past few weeks, or what you hope to see next week going forward, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more reviews to the channel. Like I mentioned, we have full live reactions to every single episode over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Amber, Hikari Oni, LC Yu-Gi-Oh!, Jmon7173, Durhosh, and Franklin Greenway. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.